It's mostly it's knowing that I've helped people get that sense of get their own sense of peace, um, feeling like they have taken care of their family and that they're not going to have to deal with the same issues that they had seen happen elsewhere. Yeah, just helping people, meeting people where they are, learning about what's most important to them to protect. Because again, not everything is important to everybody, and being able to help them figure out what sort of plan they want to build.
Welcome to the Verdict Signal podcast, where we feature how top attorneys help people make informed choices, avoid common mistakes, and move forward with confidence. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Verdict Signal, and today we're expanding our conversations to the experts who protect what people build, their careers, families, and businesses. I have Becky Easton, the senior attorney at LifePlan Legal Arizona, and a licensed personal family lawyer in both Arizona and Colorado, who is on a mission to help 10,000 families create intentional legacies. A graduate of the University of Arizona and the University of Denver Stern College of Law, Becky has built a reputation for transforming complex estate planning into an approachable, human-centered experience. Beyond her legal practice, she's a recognized community leader and speaker, focusing on helping people and building meaningful community impact. Recently nominated as an Inspiring Local Gem, Becky is known for her no court, no conflict methodology, ensuring that her clients' values are preserved just as carefully as their valuables. So Becky, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Nice to be here.
Yeah, so let's start at the very top. How did you first get interested in the legal field?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer. I watched a whole lot of Law and Order, and thought all you did was go to court and argue, and that is great for somebody else. I was not interested whatsoever. Didn't even consider law school until I had graduated with my undergrad, and was just kind of working my way up into management and with a corporation, and well, I wasn't really excited about it. I was like, I mean, I guess this is what we're doing with our lives. Sounds good. And about that time, I realized that transactional attorneys were a thing, and I didn't have to go to court. And I could help you plan your life to keep you from having to go to court yourself. I mean, I think really only the lawyers win in court, if anybody wins there at all. And so trying to help people. Well, and then how I fell into estate planning ultimately is realizing that, there's going to probate doesn't have to be what happens. And, you can look at what you've got and be intentional about it and set it up in a way that your family doesn't have to spend, $10,000 plus and a couple years of their life going through probate to deal with your assets. So.
Okay. And what's one thing you really wish people understood about working with an attorney?
Yeah, that I don't know. I think attorneys kind of get a little bit of a bad rap. We
Yeah.
think it's just going to be expensive, and every time you pick up the phone, it's going to be another $75, and is your question worth that?
Mhm.
And at least for us, we do everything as much as possible on a flat fee basis when it comes to your estate planning, because I want you to call in with your questions.
Mhm.
I want to really be able to understand you and your family dynamics and what's going on in order to be able to kind of recommend the best path forward, if
Mhm.
you will. And I think it can certainly feel like scary calling a lawyer or anything, especially when you kind of have those preconceived notions of what that means. But, a lawyer is a counselor for you. They're supposed to understand the situation and counsel you on the law and what your path forward is. So, um, it doesn't have to be scary. And if it is, then maybe that's not the person for you,
Mm, mm,
as you're interviewing people and trying to figure out who you want to work with. Well, if you're not getting the right vibe from them, you don't trust that they're going to do the best work for you, then there's somebody else around the corner that you might have a better experience with.
mhm. Now, I'm curious because when you think about this, like I think a common misconception people have is that lawyers and attorneys, they're not necessarily like the enforcers of the law. So if you tell them something, it's like they're not going to get you in trouble. Like they're really your advocates. Like they're there to protect you and advise you and guide you. So you should tell them kind of everything so that they know how to properly
Yeah,
guide you. Um,
yeah.
what would be some of the other I'm imagining that's kind of one misconception, but what are some other misconceptions that you hear from potential clients and clients when it comes to the kind of law that you do?
Yeah, I mean, particularly with estate planning, you see a lot of, I don't have enough.
Mm,
I don't, my estate is very simple. I will just do it myself. Or it's going to be, just wildly expensive. So why am I going to, I don't need to meet with a lawyer. I can do it cheaper.
mhm,
And I mean, the facts around that really are just that everybody has something. And there's some amount of estate planning that everybody over the age of 18 needs to do. You have your powers of attorney, who's going to make your medical decisions at the very least
mhm,
for you if you're unable to make them. You are in a car accident, now you're in a coma in the hospital.
mhm,
Okay, what happens now?
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
are you, because the state has really decided those kind of default things that would happen, right? Your spouse, your adult children, your parents.
mhm,
But what if you're estranged from your parents?
mhm,
Do you really want them coming in and making medical decisions for you, or going to like apply for guardianship or something of you if you need it? And so at the very least, we've got that when you're 18. And then as soon as you have kids and any other amount of stuff, a house, whatever that you want to go to somebody particular, then, that's where you're talking about like wills and thinking about guardianship nominations for your kids.
mhm,
One of the things that we focus on that's a little bit different in that aspect is, I mean, typically we're thinking about nominating guardians for our kids in our wills, which is great, but you have to die for that to happen.
mhm,
That to happen.
mhm,
Um, but sometimes, again, you were in a car accident and you're in the hospital right now, and someone's got to be taking care of your kids,
mhm,
and that's not in your will. Your will doesn't work at that point.
mhm,
And so focusing a little bit more on, how do we nominate guardians outside of a will? How do we think about temporary guardians who can you know, be there in a pinch, in an emergency, so your kids don't ever end up in the hands of CPS for, even a matter of hours.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think everybody's got a little something.
Yeah.
And also, I hear a lot of like, oh, trusts are for the wealthy, right?
Mhm.
We think that way. We're like, oh yeah, that's for people with estates and
Yeah.
millions of dollars. And that's just yes,
Mhm.
yes. But also it's a lot more about just ease of transfer
Mhm.
and wanting to get things all together so it's easy. And again, you were hit by a bus and now you're in the hospital. If you have things in trust and you've actually funded it, so your trust actually owns some assets, then your successor trustee steps in and has all access to all of those things. They don't have to go to court to get it. They don't have to rely on a power of attorney that maybe by this point is several years old and the bank is going to kick back to you anyway.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's a lot more to be said about planning with a trust that isn't just like, oh, I have millions of dollars.
Mhm.
No, you care about a lot of other things that trust can help with as well.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a lot of really good points in here because I think when most people think about estate planning, it's like, oh, well, when I die, then I need this taken care of. So I just need a will. And that's all I need. I see no will on anything else. But you mentioned power of attorney, making medical decisions, like what's going to happen to your kids if you get an accident. Like, I
Mhm.
think most people just don't even realize that part of it, but that all falls under the estate planning part of it.
Yep.
So that's why it's so
Yeah.
important. So what would you say are some of the most common situations that your clients come to you for? Is it really just the people who just plan ahead and is like, oh, like I know this is important, so I need to plan ahead? Or do you kind of get like the people that's like kicking and screaming? Or I'm sure you get some people that's like, hey, this is a mess.
No.
I'm in this situation. How can you get me out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, there are a handful of people that come because something has happened in their family and it was a total disaster. And they were like, we cannot let this happen to our family. Like, we
Mhm.
must fix things. Or they come, fewer of them, but some people come after something's happened in the family and everything was so easy. And they were like, oh, well, we got to do this. Like, I don't want to leave a mess. Everybody's heard a terrible story
Mhm.
about probate. I mean, any number of celebrity stories are out there for you. Um, and so it's usually one of those two reasons. Also, very commonly, just we've had this on our list forever, and we just haven't done it, and it's time to go.
Mhm.
We had kids 12 years ago, and we were ready to do it then,
Yeah.
and now it's 12 years later, and it's time to actually do it.
Mhm. Okay. Now, what would you say some of the biggest mistakes people make before they call a lawyer?
Yeah. Trying to DIY anything of it, much of it. Um, there are a lot of things that could seem really easy to do, but super easy to kind of unintentionally mess up. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about deed transfers. Oh, I can just get a quick claim form online. You can,
Mhm.
yeah. But then when you start like moving things around, I'm thinking of one um one client that I was looking at back through their deed history, like, okay, what's going on? What they wanted was for the house to be split between two kids.
Mhm.
But what he had done was gift it to one, the one gifted it back, and then he like beneficiary deeded to that one,
Mhm.
and then beneficiary deeded to the other one. And I'm like, oh, so this just means the other one gets it all. That's not what you planned at all, is it? You know, yeah, things like that. Trying to DIY, not understanding like what you have in terms of assets,
Mhm.
right? There's some $58 billion of unclaimed property across the United States, which
Mhm.
is an astonishing number.
Mhm.
Arizona, where I am, 2.5 billion in Arizona alone.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
that's just because people didn't know where to find it.
Wow.
You died
Mhm.
and nobody knew where to look for that bank account that you had but never used,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, or it's something that you even had forgotten about.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you'll see like um, what am I thinking? Oh, like utility deposits
Mhm.
that you had to pay when your credit was not good or you were
Mhm.
young, and then you moved out of that apartment
Mhm.
and you never remember to get your utility deposit back.
Mhm.
And so you have like $200
Yeah.
chilling in unclaimed property out there for you. So,
Mhm. Okay, then on the flip
so
side of that, what are some steps, like some smart steps, first smart steps people can take before they kind of start reaching out to an attorney? Like, I guess preparation, like, I guess avoid the bad stuff, but like, what are some smart things they can do first?
yeah, I mean, I think number one is just going back to talking about that inventory. What accounts do you have? What bigger assets, cars, houses, boats, planes, if you're that fancy.
Mhm.
And what do you have? How is it currently owned? And who do you have on there as a beneficiary? Because that's what's going to tell you the tale of, or, what would happen today.
Mhm.
And that's how our process starts. Give me an idea of what's going on in your life, your family dynamics. what you own, and then let's talk about what happens today if, you didn't wake up last weekend. This is what your family's dealing with.
Mhm.
This is how much they're likely spending in probate. And, do you want that? Here we can plan differently.
Mhm. Okay.
So then that's one of the easiest ways is just start keeping track of where your accounts are. Obviously, those balances are going to change over time, but who knows that I've got a Robinhood and a Coinbase account and some other crypto that like hangs out over here in some random wallet. Like,
Mhm.
who knows that if you don't put it down?
Mhm. And then good luck trying to get into it.
Well, yeah, I know. No, never mind keeping your keys and passwords all safe as
Yeah.
well. But
Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your methodology of the no court, no conflict. Could you explain a little bit more about what that means?
yeah, so I my goal is entirely just to help you plan to keep your family out of court and out of conflict if that's what's important to you, right? There are a handful of people who are just like, yeah, I don't care, I'm going to be dead. That's their problem. And I'm like, okay, well, you've been informed and you've chosen a different way. That's okay. Um, but the goal is to start off with that homework, get a good picture of what would happen today, because a lot of people just don't really realize. Kind of going back to talking about guardians, you know, yeah, let's give the example of like having a couple sisters who one would be great and the other one would be terrible. And just because you grew up with them, you know their personalities and everything, but the one who would be terrible is like great on paper, and if she's in front of a judge, she's gonna wow him. She's gonna win because the other one is like younger, doesn't have much to her name, um, but she would clearly be the best one in your eyes to step up and raise your kids,
Mhm.
right? Like, and without kind of sitting down and realizing that, and like what would happen that now those two sisters are going to be fighting each other, and who's a judge going to pick? The one who's better on paper because they don't know any different.
Mhm.
And and so really focus in on just helping you understand what the kind of unintentional consequences of not planning are. Because, yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of, well, how bad can it be? Like, if they got to do what they got to do, that's fine. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
we don't have to do that, though. It doesn't, yes, with just, going through probate, you don't have to. You can plan around that and try to keep your family informed and not have them have to go through a, you know, 1.5, 2 year long process or more, depending on where you are,
Mhm.
spending tens of thousands of dollars on all of that when they're trying to grieve you,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
let them grieve you.
Yeah. Would you say that it's kind of an accurate comparison that doing the estate planning is kind of like getting like fire insurance on your house, knowing that your house will eventually catch fire?
Yeah, yeah, actually, you yes, because you're all gonna die. I
Mhm.
feel a little bit Oprah-ish sometimes where I'm like, you're gonna die, and you're gonna die, and you're gonna die, like we're all going to die.
Mhm.
And the the amount of planning that you might do, like, I mean, with that analogy, right? Might you get different insurance,
Mhm.
right? You wouldn't just get the bare bones basic. You
Mhm.
would actually go through and probably like inventory out all your jewelry, all your artwork, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I'll just take whatever you say.
Mhm.
$600 sounds
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, I like that. That's a fun analogy.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about the concept of accidental legacies versus intentional legacy. You talked a little bit in your introduction about intentional. Can you talk a little about
Hmm.
that between the accidental legacies and the intentional legacies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times, and not just necessarily with estate planning, but kind of with life, we end up just sort of accidentally somewhere. Even if it's pretty nice, you know. I am kind of a poster child for that, right? Like I didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer, and then one day I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. I could do that."
Mhm,
You know, and while I was in school, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, estate planning is what I want to do. But then I got to it and I'm like, oh, I really like this. And, this is working out okay. And a lot of things just could have happened faster if I had been more intentional about it.
mhm,
And moving forward, being more intentional about, um, where I want to be now, like lets me get there instead of this, kind of, well, this this is great. Like I'm glad I got here, but I didn't really intend it necessarily. And I think with estate planning, a lot of times you kind of think you've left a good legacy. You think you did the things. Your estate planning gets a really kind of like set it and forget it
mhm,
rap, right? It's like, oh, I did it. I checked the box.
mhm,
Done. And then a few years pass by and your life changes, and a few more pass by and your assets all change. And I mean, my grandma is a great example of this. She had a trust, talked about it. We knew it existed. Then she died and there was nothing in it. And so it did us zero good
mhm,
whatsoever. She and my mom had kind of backdoored everything. And like my mom was on bank accounts and was on houses. And so it wasn't, and she was an only child. So it wasn't too big of a deal at that point in time
mhm,
until a couple years later, I was trying to sell my house and my grandma had helped me buy it.
mhm,
And the one thing, it turned out we didn't own the house with rights of survivorship. So I now owned a house with my grandma's estate. And then my mom, as an only child, what I now owned a house then with my mom
mhm,
after we got that settled.
mhm,
And if my grandma had had like an ongoing relationship with an attorney or had regularly been checking in on what like her asset situation, then we would have been able to spend maybe $100 to change the deed
mhm,
instead of $5,000 in probate. And then I only got half of my sale proceeds.
mhm.
And my mom's nice, so she gave it back.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
she didn't have to be,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm,
And I mean, you see that a lot. I mean,
mhm,
and that was just totally accidental, right? She
yeah,
didn't, we thought we did it right.
yeah.
Um, and then just like kind of never followed up on it to see if it actually was right.
Mhm,
And so a lot of thinking you did the right thing, you checked all the boxes and well, almost.
yeah. Okay, so you gotta be really careful about these things and keep it up. Like you can't, it's not just a one and done.
Yeah,
Okay. Now
yeah,
let's,
definitely. Because life and everything changes over
yeah.
time. You're gonna feel one way about how you're leaving your assets to your family today, and then something's gonna happen and change your mind. If you've got young kids, they're gonna grow up and start making big kid decisions that either you want to support or you don't.
Mhm.
And touching your planning every now and then. I think I usually say about every 3 to 5 years is probably a realistic time frame to check back in on everything. We check in with our clients every year because life happens,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's say someone is looking for help from a lawyer in this. but they don't know who to choose. Like they've never worked with a lawyer before. They don't know anybody who can give them a good recommendation. What's the most
Mhm.
important piece of advice you would give to this person so they can find that lawyer that is experienced, that's knowledgeable, that's going to take their best interests at heart, and get them the result they're looking for?
Yeah, definitely. I think that working with someone who works primarily in the estate planning space is important. You see a lot of more kind of general practice attorneys that do estate planning, and they're just not going to have seen all the I mean, nobody's ever seen all the situations, but they're just not going to be thinking about your plan in the same way as someone who is primarily in the estate planning space. There are a lot of sometimes I'll see like powers of attorney that had been attorney drafted,
Mhm.
but didn't work
Mhm.
because they weren't listening to the specific reason that this person needed a power of attorney. Like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, my mom's health is declining and I need to be able to, access her accounts and everything. And they get a power of attorney that's not durable and ends when they're incapacitated. It's literally the only reason that these people needed a power of attorney was to
Mhm.
take care of mom when she was incapacitated. And they got a completely wrong document
Mhm.
and now are kind of in the position of, now having to look at guardianship because mom's a little too far gone
Mhm.
now.
Wow.
And they thought they did it right, and the attorney just wasn't skilled enough to know that.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. Now, you touched a little bit on this earlier on, but when it comes to finding a lawyer, there's kind of the two different polarities. I guess the two different sides. I use
Yeah.
simple words. Two different sides. There's the likability. So you talk with an attorney, you really like them, you really connect with them, and then there's also the ability side of it as well. So can they get the job done? Can they do it really, really well?
Hmm.
Of course in the ideal situation you want to have someone that has the ability but also you really really like them, but is there kind of a situation where maybe you don't quite like them as much but they're really really good in what they do versus someone who you really really like and connect with, but maybe they're maybe not the best, like they're good but they're not the best? Like how do people kind of navigate that part of it?
Yeah, good question. I think when it comes to estate planning, if you were on the fence and you were like, well, I really love this other person, but they're super new. I don't necessarily have confidence in their abilities, and I don't want to just support them for the love of the game. Then considering somebody else who does have that experience and that I mean, especially if we're thinking kind of higher net worth planning, I think that's very important also because you know, an attorney who doesn't work with high net worth clients doesn't have at the very least, a very good network of tax attorneys and financial advisors and things that they work with. They're just not even going to know the questions to ask. And or things you say just aren't going to set off light bulbs in their head because they don't know. And that's nothing against them, personally. But, I mean, I can think of times in the past where I'm like, probably could have referred that out because that got, they probably would have gotten better service with
Mhm.
somebody who knew a little bit more at the time, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you just don't get that until, you've heard the thing. You've
Yeah.
seen it happen in your practice or seen it happen in somebody else's practice. So,
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Great advice then. Now, Becky, I'm sure that throughout your experience, you've run into a lot of memorable cases or challenging cases, and you shared some of the situations already. But is there one story that kind of sticks out in particular, one of those cases, and how you were able to get them a successful outcome in the end?
let's see. I Well, a lot of times for my clients, we don't see the successful outcome until decades later when they pass away.
Hmm.
Um, but with a lot of my clients coming to me feeling just kind of confused or not knowing where to start or overwhelmed, um, I having being able to sit down with someone and just explain the process to them, how everything is going to work, really focusing on that education piece first, and then having them come out of even just that initial planning session, just feeling a bit of a weight, like, oh, we're doing this,
Hmm.
like great, this is we're in good hands. Um, I ran my own firm for about 7 years before I came on board here with Life Plan Legal, and so a lot of my clients were like family units.
Hmm.
So I'd have one of my favorites actually is it was parents and then their kids each, and now working with one of them has gotten married, so now working with that family and everything. And I'm just like, oh, y'all like me so much. Like, thank you.
Generations come to you.
Yeah, that definitely feels like success to me when someone in your family had such a great experience that they're like, everybody, you all need to work with this lady.
Wow. Okay. Now, when it comes to the future of estate, I'll call it state law, are there any changes that people should kind of pay attention to or be aware of, or is it kind of largely doesn't really change too much?
Um, it depends. I mean, there are things that are kind of constantly changing. Our estate tax exemption is huge federally, right? You can leave $15 million to the world without paying any sort of tax on it. Arizona, where I am, we don't have an additional estate tax or like an inheritance tax. So, um, not and do I see anything coming down from 15 million? I mean, we might come down a little bit, but probably not that much, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so the things that really are changing um, are really the accessibility of being able to do your estate planning cheaply, right? So with AI,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, AI can write you a trust.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Is it going to be good? You probably won't know.
Yeah.
Your family will find out. Give them
Hmm.
my card for probate. Um, um, yeah, and a lot of I think that that's it. Just with the advent of AI and it getting better, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of I see a lot more kind of like second guessing
Hmm.
things. I love getting informed ahead of time. Like that's great. But then AI said this one thing, and I'm like, AI also hallucinates a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
So, until we get there, um, and it doesn't replace a relationship
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
And so, where I like to see access to justice, if you will, like more people should be able to get um, estate plans in place, something basic, your powers of attorney, a basic will, um, not a deed, but no, I don't really love that. I think there's still a lot more that goes into that. But there should be things that sh should be available for people, and there's a place for things like that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like it's not giving you legal advice.
Yeah.
You can work with a paralegal or a document preparer, but they can't give you legal advice.
Hmm.
Um, you can buy a DIY kit at Staples,
Hmm.
but it can't give you legal advice. And
Very well said.
it's not going to follow up with you to be
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, did you buy a house with your granddaughter recently? Do you do you want maybe it to go to her when you die?
Hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very good thing for people to be aware of. AI is powerful, but it's not quite there yet. You still definitely need an experienced pair of eyes looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, Becky, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at lifeplanlegalaz.com.
Yep,
Now,
that is it.
last question for you. What does peace of mind mean to you?
Peace of mind. It's mostly it's knowing that I've helped people get that sense of get their own sense of peace, um, feeling like they have taken care of their family and that they're not going to have to deal with the same issues that they had seen happen elsewhere. Um, Peace of mind. Yeah, just helping people, meeting people where they are, learning about what's most important to them to protect. Because again, not everything is important to everybody, and being able to help them figure out what sort of plan they want to build, and then kind of putting that in place, putting them at ease, following up with them, and helping them get it into place over time. So, but other than that, I think just personally knowing that I'm showing up and doing my kind of best work for people and kind of helping people look past whatever's going on. A lot of times you kind of alluded to it, people coming in kind of kicking and screaming, like, oh, my wife says I have to be here. It's like, well, yeah, it's important, but like, I realize that's not about me either, right? That's something else is going on.
Mhm.
Even if you come in, super grumpy or
Mhm.
whatnot, and I won't take anybody being like rude to our staff, but grumpy's another thing. And it's like, okay, what's going on? What I like to try to shift that a little bit when I can. And like, this doesn't have to be a bad experience. I'm fun.
Okay, well, there you have it. Becky sharing your expertise. So, Becky, where can people contact you and your practice?
Yeah, you had it there with lifeplanlegalaz.com. And then my email is Becky at lifeplanlegalaz. And then otherwise, I've got my own website, which directs currently to LifePlan, BeckyEaston.com. Maybe by the time you, the listener, are listening, it will be up and doing something more exciting. But for the moment, just forwarding on.
Got it. Okay. Well, Becky, thank you. This is great. Thanks for sharing your message and thanks for sharing all your expertise.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Verdict Signal podcast. Any questions? Please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.